there, my name is Bryn, and today we are doing something I've been wanting to do for a while now, and that's doing a react to Tank the Tech's video about Blue Ridge Rock Festival. Now, in full disclaimer, have actually already watched this once a while ago, it was a couple months ago. I absolutely love Tank the Tech's content. He is a tour manager, he is a guitar tech, he's basically toured the world many times over with some of the biggest bands in the world, and I'm really excited to watch this again and provide sort of my own knowledge from my own experience in the event industry, from the touring industry, and yeah, I'm really excited to rewatch this again and react to it. I've completely forgotten everything about it, and this leads me on from one of my previous videos that I've put up. Which is about Blue Ridge Fest, and now we're going to get a little bit more in depth here with someone who was actually there from the band perspective. So I think this is going to be a really cool video to watch and to react to, and to lead my insights from the event industry as a whole. And yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. And if you don't subscribe to me, I'll be very disappointed. And if you don't subscribe to Tank the Tech, well, then I'll be really disappointed. So go watch his stuff, go watch my stuff, subscribe to both of us, and let's get right into it.
So this might make for an interesting video, because to be honest, I was not planning on doing any content while I was on tour. I think at this point, it's no secret to anybody that I am currently on tour with Electric Callboy. I'm tour managing the Techno World Tour in North America. We just finished 4 shows in a row, and I'm finally on a day off. We're in Boston. Sitting in a hotel room, and like I said, I wasn't originally going to film content, but something happened at our first show of this little run of 4 days when we were at Blue Ridge Rock Festival. And by now, I'm sure everybody that's into rock and metal that's been on the internet has heard about what's going on. And I finally decided I want to talk about this. And originally I wasn't going to, because it's a weird spot to be in the music industry when stuff like this happens. Nobody wants to speak out and burn bridges and stuff like that. But after seeing what fans were saying about this.
Yeah, so very quickly, I'll get back straight into it. But yeah, that's kind of the thing. I don't want to say it's like a secret club, but it's like, and that's, again, a problem with me starting this channel as well is, you know, in the events industry and touring industry, we don't like to burn bridges. We don't like to talk smack about certain things and smack about like certain events and say that event's terrible, or that event's, you know, this production manager's terrible, or this band's production's bad, or anything like that, because eventually it will come around and bite you some way and you just seem as bitter. I'm okay with that because everything I comment on and everything I say in my videos, I'm usually pretty, you know, I'm pretty honest about and pretty easy about. And, you know, when things go wrong, they go wrong badly. Like saying that Firefest was a shit show, that's not really contentious. That's not controversial. It was. Firefest 2 potentially being a shit show, yeah. Because at time of this recording, it hasn't happened yet. So, yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing to say. And to say Blue Ridge Rockfest was a shit show is, yeah, I've already said that in the previous video. So I don't really care. But, yeah, when it's just happened, it is, especially when you have something to do with these events and to do with the industry like this, it's a bit, you feel like you're in jeopardy because you feel like people are going to judge you. But I think when things go terribly wrong, I think it's important it's not so much to judge, but it's also to learn from these experiences. But I'll shut up now and I will let Tank do his thing.
This is just one of those moments where I feel like when stuff like this happens, people need to be held accountable. I honestly just want to share my experience.
100%.
Before I really dive into anything, I do just want to preface this by saying everything in this video is my opinion. This is my experience when we were there. This is my opinion. Do not hold anything I say to, or like it's the same opinion that Electric Callboy or their crew has. If they want to speak about it, they can. If any of the other bands want to speak about it, they can. This is just everything from me. I do not plan on editing this video. This is going to be just a sit here and talk kind of video. So let's get into this. Blue Ridge Rock Festival is held in Alton, Virginia. One of the major festivals that people are really, you know, looking forward to every year because it always has a really, really good, sick, killer lineup. I was especially looking forward to this one. I thought it was going to be really good. The day that we were there had a killer lineup. I was excited to see some friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, the lineup was absolutely sick. Yeah, I will put that up here. And wait, oh, the other way. Yeah, so I'll put that up here. And the lineup is pretty sick. Like when I remember I first saw this lineup, I was like, holy cow, this is something I would go to. This looks sick.
So I'm going to walk you through the entire process of what happened and what I saw with my own eyes, and kind of even from a production standpoint, tell you how this works. The way that I tour manage is that a month in advance from every show, I advance shows with production managers. And what that means is I reach out to them and I talk to them about every aspect of the show production wise, what's going on at their location, what kind of setup they have, what they're going to do for parking the buses, loading the gear, hospitality backstage, where the dressing room is going to be. Every little thing about a show, I talk to production managers ahead of time. I also tell them what we're going to have, what kind of gear, what kind of power we need, how many people, how many buses, every little single detail. No band goes into a show on a professional level just walking in with stuff and being like, hey, we're here, and figuring it out, because
Which, yeah, that doesn't happen. So, I'm not going to go on. He pretty much nailed it on the head. Everything when you tour, even not even just touring, but when you are doing these really really packed events where it doesn't even have to it doesn't even have to be festivals. It also can be you liaising with corporate event venues as well, and events which are like high capacity, really super important. You can't mess anything up. We do that ahead of time, and it really shows when you do it wrong or you miss details, because when you're on site, you're running around like a chicken with its head cut off, trying to solve issues which could have been completely avoided. And even when you send this information over, I should note, when you send this information over, not always do people remember or inform the right departments, or even acknowledge that you sent that email with all that information on it, and you lead to a complete shit show, which is kind of what happened with Blue Rock, but also with in general in events, when people don't read your emails. Anyway, that's a separate point. Let's move on.
there's too much detail involved. So a month before Blue Ridge Rock Fest, I advanced with their production manager for the festival, went over everything. I sent them our touring documents. We have an entire rider with everything that we're going to be carrying. It goes from gear to who's traveling with us, how many crew people we have, what we need for power, what we need for space, stuff like that. So they had all of our information ahead of time. Not only that, but they give me their tech specs as well. So I knew exactly what we were going to have at Blue Ridge Rock Fest. I knew what things were going to be. And I also do phone calls with people. And for Blue Ridge Rock Fest, I specifically did 2 different phone calls, one with a production manager, one with the head of artist relations that's in charge of like transportation back and forth, hospitality, parking, all that stuff. So it's not like we didn't communicate. I've talked to these guys multiple times, and even a week before shows, I reach out again just to make sure that nothing has changed. So going into Blue Ridge Rock Fest, we had a plan. We were told where we were going to park the buses. We were aware that we were going to be cross-loading to the stage. We knew our set times. We pretty much knew everything. We knew what power was going to be. Like, you get the point. It's everything. So we roll into Blue Ridge Rock Fest. We were there on the Friday. Was that the 9th? I think the 9th. Sorry, my days are really messed up. And I know a lot of people saw on the 8th, the Thursday, they had some crazy weather. I saw videos from friends that were there that it looked like a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. So I expected the grounds to be kind of wet, things to be a little disorganized, but
yeah, well, in the UK, literally 50% of the time, the ground is wet. Yeah, in the UK festivals are notorious for having rain when you don't expect rain, and are very muddy fields. But I digress.
I had no idea how it was going to be. So we showed up there at about 9:30, 10 in the morning, and I was originally told we were going to park our buses at the artist compound. I checked in at artist relations, and I started texting the people that I was supposed to text when I got there. And very quickly, it realized like nobody really knew what was going on. I started getting texts from like 6 different people that were in charge of different things, and we were kind of hanging out for like an hour before anybody really knew what was happening. Got a hold of the people that were in charge.
That's that would worry the shit out of me if I'm getting. That's the worst. It is in events when you don't have clear communications, and like I've been in situations before where I've had like six different. I've had a client on one. A client communications, internal communications with my team, then the venue texting me as well, and then I've got suppliers texting me, and then all of that, which is totally fine and getting calls. But when it's all about the same subject, and yeah, that's not fun.
Charge of transporting people back and forth because where we were supposed to park was a good bit away from the stage. But they told us that they were going to have shuttles, golf carts, running people back and forth all day. It was going to be no big issue.
Happens all the time.
It's kind of difficult to find somebody to get band members back to the dressing rooms. But I finally got that lined up, and the band went back to the dressing rooms while I stayed with the buses trying to figure out what was going on.
Point here, just to butt in, is buses are usually in a completely different location to artist rooms and green rooms. Sometimes they can be, sometimes they're right next door to each other, just because of the way the festival is designed back a house. Sometimes they, more commonly than not, they are ages away, or I've been on some where they've been over a kilometre away. In fact, I've been on some festivals where they've put the buses 2.5 kilometres away, and they've had to park up ages and ages away because of site power issues or the way that the festival's designed. So, getting your artists from the stage, where they might have been doing rehearsals or whatever, and making sure everything's all right for them before they go on, back to their green rooms is not always like, oh yeah, the green room's right next to the stage. It can be quite far away, and the buses which they're touring on can be ages away as well, because artists and crew and all of that store stuff on the buses that they might need. So having ground movement between those areas is super important. And when you don't have that, that's you're going to be doing some kilometres that day, and you're definitely going to find your 30, which is an Australian term for finding 30 minutes a day. It was a walking campaign in Australia to get people to walk more, find 30. Anyway, they definitely found their 30 that day.
Well, after about an hour and a half of sitting there with nobody telling us what was going on, I had to make the decision to get our bus drivers to a hotel because bus drivers need to sleep. And we had a show a very long distance the next day. We had to go from there to Pittsburgh. So I told the people that seemed to be in charge, like, hey, we got to park our buses because I have to get our drivers sleep. So I made the decision that I wanted to park our buses at artist check-in, which was like at the main entrance of the festival. It wasn't in the artist compound or anything like that. They finally told me it was fine. So we did that. And I sent our drivers to a hotel with the runner from the festival. That was like the one thing all day that actually seemed to be set up was transportation for our drivers. So I told our crew, like, hey, you guys know we're going to have to cross load. So I'm going to go down to the stage and see how the dressing rooms are. After waiting for about 30 minutes, I finally got to run down to the stage, and upon getting to the stage, I saw the backstage area, which was, pretty small, but no big deal, like not complaining about that. But the trailer that the band was put in for, their dressing room, had no working AC. They were like, sorry, the air conditioning broke. We're going to try and get somebody to fix it. And it was in the 90s that day. I mean, it was super hot, so it was kind of miserable. And the band had already told me after being there for 10 minutes, it was a sweat box. So they were all just sitting outside under a tent, waiting to figure out what was going on. So while I was working out stuff with them, I started hearing from our production manager about how we needed to cross load. And again, it seemed like nobody at the festival knew what was going on. I was texting and calling people like, hey, I need a flatbed truck up at our buses to load all of our gear. We need a forklift for our video carts that we're using. And the same answer that I got every day, all day long, was just like, yeah, we got somebody on it. Like, we got somebody working on it. Cool, whatever. We didn't get our first flatbed to our buses until about 2 p.m., which, to be fair, was the scheduled load-in time they gave us, was about 2 p.m. But they told us to drop our trailer doors at about noon and start getting stuff out. There were no stagehands when we started unloading our trailer at all. I helped our crew unload, and we got everything out in the parking lot, just sitting in a gravel dirt parking lot. Pulled everything out, sat there waiting. At some point, I had to go back to the stage again just to make sure that the band was doing okay.
So I just want to elaborate on what stagehands and local crew are. So these people are basically the brunt force of people who are pushing packers on stage and cases and euros and whatever else on stage and off stage. They're loading and unloading trucks. The reason why we have these people opposed to just using the techs and using guys like Ian and Tank the Tech or Tank the Tech and stage production managers and tour managers is because it is extremely difficult to manage where this stuff is going and where it's getting loaded to and do all the technical parts to the load in and having to actually physically load gear in and out as well. So it allows the technicians to actually, as soon as there's gear on stage, to start actually setting up that gear, opposed to focusing on just loading and unloading. Whereas the stagehands can just focus on loading and unloading gear, the techs can focus on actually setting that gear up. So it takes some of the more complicated technical roles and allows the techs to fulfill those roles opposed to them doing something that really anyone can do, which is just basic pushing and heavy lifting. So stagehands are super important, and the fact that a tour manager is unloading and loading trucks is pretty awful. Actually, that's a bad thing, and that's a sign it's going all wrong. And when you're unloading onto gravel as well, where you can't push any carts or anything, like pushing on gravel sucks ass. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that's abysmal. That's so crap. Yeah, they're heavy enough as they are, let alone pushing on gravel. I digress. Let's get back into it.
I was told that they were going to bring a fan into the dressing room, and a air fan, not like a fan of the show. I was told that they were going to bring a fan in there because the AC didn't work. Never got that fan. Never showed up.
I mean, you could have a fan go in there. They're just there with a big ass leaf, just fanning the band like that. I mean, that's an option. You know, just get a big piece of cardboard, just trying to do that. I imagine many fans would actually love to do that for their artists, but I think that breaks some slave labor laws or something like that.
At this point, the band was still just sitting outside, like behind the stage with nothing really going on. Catering for lunch was pretty much non-existent at all. I was told that because of the storm the night before, that catering was all unorganized and they didn't really know what was going on. And then there was like barely any water backstage. There was no hospitality in the dressing rooms. And I know that sounds like a diva thing, but it's like these are the things that are advanced. It's like we need water backstage for people that are hanging out. We need drinks and snacks or something, food of some sort. And there really wasn't anything going on.
When you're backstage and you literally rock up on the day, you go to set up and everything like that, you don't have time to go run to KFC, or you don't have time to go run to a supermarket and make your own food and do things like that. It has to be catered for because you just don't, A, you don't have the time, B, you're from out of the country. In this particular case, this band's German, so like they're not American citizens, they don't know where to go. So yeah, it needs to be catered for, and the fact that they can't even open a barbie and put a couple sausages on a barbie, or like a couple snaggers on a barbie, or a steak or whatever, it's pretty crap. Like, it's not hard. Like, catering is hard in general, but just to get some basic food out, like just some, even if it's not Michelin star food, which I have had once at a festival, shout out to Tinderbox Festival, they provided us oysters. Like, holy crap, that was amazing. And a 7-course meal as part of like backstage catering. That was awesome. I don't even like oysters, and I had oysters, but that is a very that's usually not the case. It's usually different catering to that. And I've said this a lot on my LinkedIn. I'm a really strong supporter of providing enough water for patrons at festivals. I mean, if you're not even getting it backstage, I can't even imagine what it's like for people front of house. Bottled water is just a bare necessity, let alone just portable drinking water in general. Like, it frustrates me because this is such an easy thing to fix. It's not like water is something that is hard to get. It's not the same as providing beer, for instance. Beer is a bit harder to get. It's a regulated substance. You have to have licenses and all this stuff, and it's expensive. Whereas portable water is not, in the grand scheme of things, is not that that expensive, and it is a fundamental human right and a human necessity. Like, people die if they don't have water. Yeah, especially in hot weather. I mean, I had looked it up. 90 degrees Fahrenheit is hot. 32 degrees. Maybe because I'm Australian, I don't think that's hot. I think 40 degrees and 42 degrees heat is hot. 32 is not that hot. But when you put it inside a box, like just a caravan box, yeah, that's going to get pretty sweaty.
And at one point, I did go back up top to where our buses were because they finally had a flatbed up there, but there was no forklift to get our stuff up there. The one stagehand that they tried to send up there disappeared. It was so unorganized and unprofessional.
I lose stagehands at the best of times. Like, those guys just walk off. Like, stagehands are really notorious for just walking off. They'll go to the toilet, they'll go smoke, or they'll go get a drink, and they're notorious. Stagehands are hard enough to keep a track of a lot of the time, and keeping them on task is a full-time job. And yeah, you can't load a flatbed truck without a forklift. Sorry. Most festivals have, at least in Europe, have stages where you back up straight up onto the stage, and it has a stage dock where you back the truck straight up onto it. Sometimes, though, in particular festivals, if they don't have a stage dock, they'll have this particular scenario where you load onto a flatbed truck outside the festival, and then that flatbed truck drives that gear to the stage dock at the festival, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. It's like double handling. I had to do it recently in Croatia, where we had, and that was a bit of a different. That was more a venue restriction where we couldn't actually drive the trucks into the venue because it's in a coliseum. So, fair enough. But and not the coliseum, it was a coliseum. It was in Pula, and yeah, you can't really drive a truck in there. So we had to double cross load and double load. So that sucks when you have to do that, and not having stagehands to do it doubly sucks. Not having a forklift, impossible.
And then on top of all that, we had media going on that day for the band. So I had to just keep going back and forth. And where our buses were was like at least 1.5 miles away from the stage. So every time somebody needed to get to the stage, we needed to call a golf cart to take us down there, which again was taking 30 to 45 minutes to just get somebody to send one up there because it seemed like they didn't have enough and they also didn't know what was going on.
Breakdown of festival operations right there.
Sparing a lot of other details during the day, I finally, at 3:30 p.m., had to get to the band to their signing session that was contracted to them from the festival. Now, the one detail about the signing session that I should bring up is that we were originally scheduled for 5:30 p.m. for the band to go sit at the tables and meet fans and sign stuff. And our set time was at 6:45, and that's really close. That's not enough time. If they do a 45-minute signing session, that leaves the band a half hour. I didn't want to do that. So earlier in the day, I had asked the festival if we could move our signing time to 3:30, which they told us was absolutely no problem. They would update the signing times. They would, let the fans know they were going to make announcements. So when I finally got backstage to get the band to their signing, they got us transportation on time, which was great. And they take us all the way across the festival grounds behind the main stage, and they take us to this gated area. And they said, all right, here's your signing area. So go in there, and we'll be back in a half hour to pick you guys up, and everything's cool. So I was like, okay. So I told the band to wait, and I go in there. And there's 2 6-foot tables set up with just 2 little benches. And there's no security. There's one person there that seemed, I don't know if they were a volunteer or staff at the festival, but they seemed to have no idea what was going on again. And they just said, hey, this is your signing area for the band. And there's people lined up. And I was like, okay, cool. We don't have security, so this is going to be kind of weird. So I told the band what was going on. I brought them in. I sat them down at 3:30, and they just started signing stuff. And I could tell very quickly that something awkward was going on, and I didn't know what. But I realized, and one of the band members told me, they think we're somebody else. And I went out to the front and I looked, and they didn't, and the festival had not changed any of the schedules. The people that were in line were actually waiting for another band. They had no idea
Awkward.
that Electric was signing at all. People were expecting to get something signed by another band, and it was very awkward and weird.
No shit.
I tried to get a hold of the festival people to try and tell them what was going on, and nothing was. I wasn't getting responses.
He's very serious in this particular video because obviously this has just happened as he's recorded it, so he's probably still very pissed off. But it is kind of funny. Like, when you look back at things, it can be kind of funny, I guess. But yeah, rocking up to a band and it not being your band, like, you don't look like the poster. Like, yeah, it's funny.
So after about 5-10 minutes, the band that was supposed to be signing showed up, and their representative from the festival honestly was a little rude, but I understand the situation and the confusion. This person went right up to one of the Electric Callboy band members and started talking to them while they were signing and was like, "Hey, what are you guys doing here? You shouldn't be here." And I grabbed this person. I said, "Hey, man, talk to me. They're signing. What's going on?" And he goes, "No, I'm talking to him." And I was like, "You talk to me. They're signing. What's going on?" And he goes, "Well, I've got this band here. They're supposed to be signing right now, but your band's here." And then blah, blah, blah. And I was like, "Listen, dude, we talked to the person at the festival and they moved us to this time." And they were like, "Oh, nobody told me that, so I apologize." And they were cool about it. Meanwhile, the other band that was supposed to be signing is just standing off to the side, very confused, and I felt bad because nobody knew what was going on. And I finally just made the call because of how awkward and weird it was to just grab my guys, Electric Callboy, and say, "Yo, let's go. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's let this other band sign. They were supposed to be here. Nobody from the festival relayed this information." It was just a very awkward situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I get them. I take them back to the dressing rooms behind the stage.
Yeah, and that guy who talked to Tank like that, what a dick. Like, you don't... Over a signing, it's not really worth getting pent up over, but that's my opinion. I wouldn't get that frustrated at it. Like, yeah, it's not a massive deal.
And kind of got in touch with my production manager and was like, "Hey, are you guys good? Are you finally loaded?" Because he was up at the buses with all the gear, and he goes, "Nope, no flatbed up here, no truck with flatbed, no forklift, no stagehands, no nothing. We're just sitting up here waiting." So I got a hold of somebody at the festival, told them what was going on. We needed somebody, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll get somebody down there." And sorry, I'm going to take a...
I hate false promises. Yeah, it happens all the time. I'd rather people say, "Oh, sorry, it's going to be in another hour," than just say, "Yeah, it's on its way. It's on its way." And sometimes you do have to be not so much in touring. You don't have to do it all the time. This is a very standalone case, but definitely more in the corporate events world where people are a little bit like trying to like just please you all the time. It's more a case of like cutting through the bullshit and sometimes just saying, "Hey, like, no BS. Are we getting this in the next 10 minutes or the next 20 minutes? If not, we need to make better plans." Like, it's not me not being rude, but like for me personally, I don't like it when someone's BSing me to my face and just putting on a client account manager sort of face just to make me happy when I know that things are not going right. And I've had this problem before many times where people have just BS'd me to my face and said, "Oh, it's happening, it's doing it. Yeah, it's fine. And it's like, well, I know it's not fine because I can see it's not fine. I haven't said it in those words, but I mean, like, hey, like, just be honest. And it doesn't sound like the festival was being honest with them.
Like 3 or 4 of my crew guys just sitting up there, like not knowing what was going on. And the festival was telling me...
Just to reiterate, 3 or 4 of his crew guys means his touring crew guys, not the stagehands. That's different. Stage crew, yeah, that's different. He's talking about his technicians, guitar techs, his drum techs, his front of house audio guy, like his actual touring crew, not the stagehands.
It's being taken care of. We're sending somebody up there. I stayed down with the band because we had more media scheduled. We were actually supposed to do, like, I was supposed to take them to a meeting, well, not a meet and greet, but like an interview with Mark from Cardivox Academy on YouTube that a lot of you guys know. And I texted Mark and I was like, "Dude, there's so much craziness going on. I don't think we can do this. Like, I don't think I'll be able to meet up with you with the guys. Like, this is just too much." And Mark was nice enough to be like, "Dude, I get it. It's crazy here." I'm not going to repeat everything he said because that's his business. If he wants to tell you guys, that's cool. But we canceled that. And then we canceled 2 other things we had planned because just nobody knew what was going on. So at about 4 o'clock, I finally call my production manager on the radio again. And I said, "Are you guys taken care of? Is anybody up there?" The answer again was no. Nobody knew what was going on. No stagehands, no flatbed, no forklift. Half of our gear had already made it to the stage, but the rest was still sitting at the buses. And we're at a point now where we've got 2.5 hours until our show time, and there's a lot that's involved. The techs have to work on stuff. They need to set up risers. They need to set up monitor worlds, front of house audio worlds, lighting stuff.
That's crazy. 2.5 hours. Like we could get, depending on the size of their show. I don't know the size of their show for that particular event, but that particular tour. But yeah, that's not a lot of time. And don't forget, you've not just got the band stuff, like the stuff that they're putting in. You've also got the stuff that the other bands have also need to get in as well. So you're sort of managing both your band stuff and trying to fit that in with where everyone else has put their monitor world in and where they've put their kit in, and trying to like navigate that. It's crazy that they've only got 2 hours to put this in. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really been on a tour where I've been that time crunched, or a show that I've been that time crunched. We've rocked up once for a headlining slot at midday, which was bad, considering the festival started at 3. So we had to have all our stuff done within 3 hours, and that's for a headliner. And we got it in working at 3:30, but that's with other bands sound checking while we're loading in and actually setting stuff up in amongst their band, sound checking while we're setting up. And that was bad. But we got it to work. This sounds just horrible.
So I spent the next hour basically calling everybody from the festival I could, even the production manager that I advanced with, and he just said, oh no, the stage manager on your stage is taking care of it. So I talked to the stage manager. He has no idea. And what I started realizing in that moment was that every single fucking thing that I advanced with that festival never got relayed to anybody. So I realized that the staff at the festival was basically flying blind. The stage manager had no advances on anything. The stagehands that were there, which was not many of them, I only saw maybe like 4 or 5 all day. And at a festival like that, you usually have like a dozen per stage. Fuck. Nobody knew what was going on. They didn't know what the bands had.
So yeah, he said it straight there. Most festivals have at least 10 or 12 guys per stage. Guys, girls. When I say guys, I mean girls, so don't cancel me. Yeah, it's usually 10 or 12 per stage. That's crazy. Like, you can't do it just with 4 people. Like, yeah. And the fact that things are not relayed, I mean, that's basic production manager 101, is the communication, having like I would go as a production manager, I would have a massive document with me that's shared with everyone. And I'd also say shared live documents, which are like Google documents, which are shared live to people. So any updates, they see the most updated version, and they have all this information already there for them. But obviously this was not done.
I started realizing that all of the on-the-ground festival staff that was supposed to be doing hospitality and artist relations, they were all completely stressed. And it hit me that nobody has prepared these people for anything that's going on at this festival. And I felt so bad for them. I hold no animosity whatsoever to the festival staff here that was like on the ground working. It was complete chaos. Finally, at like 5:15, they finally sent a forklift and a flatbed up to our buses where our production manager was, and they started bringing down video carts. And our video carts are huge. They're like 8 foot long by 3 feet deep by 6.5 feet tall. They weigh 1,500 pounds each, and we have 3 of them. And this festival had no straps for their flatbed trucks. And they told us, just have a couple of your guys ride in there and hold onto them on the back of a flatbed truck for a 1.5 mile drive over bumps and cable ramps and all that.
What?
So our production manager said, we're going to try this. I'm down at the stage trying to organize what the hell is going on.
Okay. This sounds like some serious... What the... So, yeah, no, someone's going to die. Someone's going to die. I think that's going to be my catchphrase from now on, because in my previous videos about some of my reacts to worst concert tragedies and festival disasters, I've noticed that when I was editing, my main catchphrase was, yeah, someone's going to die. So I think that's going to be my catchphrase now. Yeah, someone's going to die.
On with everything. And at one point, our production manager radioed me and said, we're stopping this truck and I need a medic. And
that's the worst call to get.
That the one stagehand they sent us almost got crushed by one of the carts because it was on a flatbed, not strapped in. One of them actually did like smash our production manager's leg, and he was injured and couldn't walk for a while. And we just decided to park that truck where it was and forklift the carts to the stage. And we eventually did that. Just gigantic clusterfuck. Meanwhile, the band is still sitting near the dressing room. No air conditioning, no nothing. They sat outside all day. Like the bands, and not just Electric Callboy, the other bands. Like they were just sitting outside all day. Like again, barely any catering, no water around, no drinks, no nothing. They were sitting out there from like 11 in the morning until showtime. And I realize as I'm saying this, a lot of people that are watching are like, yeah, but do you know what's going on with the fans? Yes, I do. I walked the grounds. Dude, I'm sorry for any of you that were at Blue Ridge Rock Fest. I walked the grounds, and what I saw was like, it was unbelievable.
I feel like I should put like an apocalyptic ending here, like just people like scavenging for food and like beating each other up over like a candy bar or like I don't know. That's what I feel like the way that he's describing it. I mean, I know the story behind it, but that's the way he's describing it. It feels like based on if it's worse than what is happening behind the stage, and yeah, I feel like it's like an apocalypse, a scenario, a zombie apocalypse is happening front of house.
I believe they let in too many people. Just from me looking, I would guess that. I saw trash piles.
Another catchphrase of mine is, "Oh, they went over capacity and the event went badly." That's yeah, who knew? Because I've said that a few times in other videos. So yeah, don't go over your venue capacities. It's bad.
Piles about 7 feet tall, all over the festival grounds. Like they had no sanitation crews taking out garbage.
Ugh.
From what I understand, from what I was hearing from people that were there, they had nobody cleaning out porta potties. Porta potties were overflowing.
Did someone say Woodstock '99? Oh, yeah, that's disgusting.
There was barely enough water for anybody at the festival. There were people just taking spots in the shade wherever they could. Like, this was horrendous. Like, this was absolutely horrendous that people paid their hard-earned money and traveled from all over the world to go to this festival, and they were treated like just like scum. Like it was embarrassing for me to see that, how the fans were treated. Also understand that they weren't letting people in. People paid extra money to get shuttles from like the campgrounds and the parking to the stages, and they were school buses. I don't know how many they had, but definitely not enough to carry the people there. I saw messages from people online that said that they waited outside for hours and hours and hours and still never got let into the festival.
Yeah, I've been on the other end of that as well as a guest. And I talk about that in one of my previous videos about worst festivals I've ever been to. And that's Ultra Music Festival 2019, where they said that they were going to transport all of us from an island back across a bridge with buses, and no buses came at 2 a.m. and we all had to walk. 30,000 people had to walk on an active freeway at 2 a.m. in the morning after dancing all day. It's so annoying because in those situations there is no information. The festivals don't give you anything. The people at the festivals don't know what's going on, and it is just pure frustration. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube and all the colors just keep moving. Like it's just a complete pain.
And the people that were in there, again, had to endure with not enough water and trash mountains and fucking porta potties overflowing. I mean, it was horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So we finally, just skipping over a few things, we finally got all of our gear to the stage at about 6 o'clock. And at that time, there was another band on. And they had some wind pickup, and they put our stage on a standby until the wind died down. But there was no rain, there was no thunder, lightning, there was no storms. It was just wind, and that delay lasted for like 15 minutes.
We usually have to do this because there's been prior instances where stages have collapsed because the wind has been too strong and the stage can't support them, and I've done a video on that as well. So when they cancel festivals or postpone it just to let the wind die down, it's a safety thing for both the fans and the band so that they don't get crushed in case the roof collapses, which is always fun.
They finally let the band before us finish their set, and when they did, we were on our changeover. During our changeover, again, I realized that the staff there had no idea what we were using. Like, the stage manager was like, "You guys have video cards? Nobody told us this." And that starts at the top with production management. Again, I felt so bad for the stage manager on our stage, which was stage 4. He was a very awesome guy, completely defeated and overwhelmed. Like I felt so bad for the guy because he was just thrown to the wolves, man. He had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the worst thing is like when you're chucked into a situation that's not of your own making and you're just forced to eat it and deal with it.
Our crew absolutely crushes. Electric Callboys crew is one of the best crews I've ever worked with. They're phenomenal people. They got that show set up in like 20 minutes. In the normal time it takes us, we usually load in our shows at 10 a.m. and sound check it, 2, so 4 hours of setup time. They did it in 20 minutes. So, it's
that's pretty incredible.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we get our video carts set up on stage, and we take our power distro out, power distribution, because you have to power lighting and video and stuff like that. And
Actually, there's a guy, he's lying back of house, there's a couple guys on bicycles, and they're just pedaling. They're not getting power from anywhere else. There's just a couple guys back of house on bikes, just pedaling, powering everything.
Electrician on the stage was like, no, we can't do this. We don't have power for you guys. You guys didn't advance this. To which I responded, the fuck I didn't, because I can take a lot of heat, but when somebody accuses me of not doing my job, I don't dig that. And
I would have absolutely done exactly the same thing. I would have especially at this point with the amount of crap that, by the sounds of it, that Ian, his real name's Ian, by the way, would have dealt with. I would have absolutely have lost my shit. Maybe not like lost my shit because I don't lose my shit. I would have like absolutely snapped back and said, "Get," and I would have gone full blown Australian bogan, angry that Ford run instead of Holden. Yeah, I would have been really angry. That would have really pissed me off.
And I apologized to him because I realized, like, I didn't mean to really swear at him. I was like, he goes, nobody told us. And I was like, I get it. I realize it now. Nobody told you anything, but, like, we advanced to this. So he told us he had no power, which meant we could not use our video for our set. Luckily, one of the bands on our stage that was playing after us, I happened to know some of their crew. They were nice enough to let us tie into their power so we could use our video. We had to run a bunch of separate cables everywhere. Our lighting director, who's also a production manager, had to run to front of house. And it was the first time all day he had seen the house lighting console. No programming, no nothing. Just got on the board literally at the start of the show.
Wow. So usually how it goes is an LD will go up and he will get on the desk and like well before the band starts, because you've got the house rig, which is the lights that are already there. Like the festival already has their own house rig, which is like the lights that the festival has, and then the touring brands will bring their own lighting as well. So you need a time to like program and merge shows and put the two show files together so that they match up. And I'm trying to say this in layman's terms and not use any technical terms here. So for people who are watching this who aren't from this world or don't do lighting, can understand it. But basically, yeah, it's merging two different the files on the desks so that they communicate with each other. And so that when you press a button, say you press the strobe button, everything strobes instead of just, just the house rig or just the touring rig. So yeah, not having any desk time before that is just insane because nothing's going to work properly, and the show is definitely, because most shows are time coded, which means that they're basically pre-programmed to the timing of the show. So you have a song that's 3.5 minutes. Each cue is like right on the dot when those things are supposed to happen, like when the chorus is supposed to drop, when the verse is supposed to drop, when there's a change in the scene. So all of that would not make sense. That would be all out the window. You might as well just what we call busk the show, which is where you do the lighting live, where you literally are pressing buttons live to the music. And that's probably what his LD did.
It was crazy. We somehow used like all of our stuff, the video wall. We didn't use our lighting package that we would normally use because we just didn't have time or power or anything like that.
Yep, fair.
But I will say,
the show was... That's why he was able to get it in 20 minutes. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, his crew was probably fantastic and they just banged it out. Like their lighting techs probably did their LED wall and helped do that. But like, yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, the lighting takes so long to set up. Coming from a lighting touring background myself, our rig, like we needed to be some of my tours have had to be the first ones in by like a couple hours because ours setup was like so much more than everyone else's.
It was great. The crowd was insane for these guys. I'm happy with the response they got for their first U.S. festival. And I will say the band put on a great show and they enjoyed it. After they got done, they went back to the dressing rooms and we found out that the air conditioning was finally fixed back there. And they did have catering up for dinner. So people were able to eat and stuff like that. But it was still hard to find like water and stuff like that. And then for our loadout for the crew, it's the same thing as the inn, man. Nobody knew what was going on. My plan was to get us out of there. Like we finished our set at like 7:50 in the evening.
Yeah.
I figured we could get out of there by 10:30 because we had that long drive, and I had my drivers back at about 9:30. And it was the same thing. Nobody knew where to get a flatbed to crossload. Nobody knew where to find a forklift. So we sat there for about 2 hours before we even knew what was going on. They finally, at some point, I found a golf cart backstage and just asked somebody, "Can you take my band back to the buses, please?" About half the band left. But I had to just start calling every phone number that I had and being like, "Guys, we need a flatbed and a forklift down here." And I found out that they only had like one flatbed truck and forklift for like the entire fucking festival, 40 bands a day.
No way.
It's just crazy.
That's unbelievable for 40 bands. You look at the line, like if you've got multiple stages, you need a flatbed, maybe 2 for each stage. And that's the same with forklifts because you got multiple. Don't forget, you got multiple bands coming and going. Like it's insane. Like it's like going to an airport and you've got an airport terminal. You've got multiple airplanes coming and going, and you've only got whatever that vehicle is that tows. There's a particular name for it, but there's the vehicle that tows the aircraft into the right positions. It's like only having one of those, but you've got like a 16 planes at this airport, and you've only got one of them to move them around. That was an analogy I just came up with on the spot. Don't blame me if it's a terrible analogy, but like, yeah, it is utterly crazy that that's the case. Like legitimately insane. Like anyone who has, you don't even need to be an event professional to know that like that's probably a bad idea. Like not having straps for your flatbed. Someone's gonna die. Yeah, that is my
insane
catchphrase.
Logistics.
From now on, you're gonna die.
So the band, the crew guys finally started their loadout maybe at like 9:30, something like that. We had to take multiple trips. We were able to finally get a flatbed loaded up and drove up and to start loading where our buses were, again, like a mile and a half away. And at one point, our agent, the booking agent for Electric Callboy, texted me and said, "How bad is it there, really? I've been hearing a lot of stuff." And I'm like, "This is fucking horrible, dude. This is a step above Fire Festival." And I only say that because bands actually played. And he goes, "Well, I'm going to send the promoter of the festival to talk to you, and I want you to be honest with him and tell him, what's going on." So at some point, the promoter for the festival, John, I can't remember his last name, but it's all over the internet. Like everybody knows who it was, so I have no problem saying it. He came to our bus and he's like, "Hey man, I was told you wanted to talk to me. I wanted to see how your day went." And I told this guy straight to his face, "Dude, I have been touring for almost 17 years. Actually, probably about 17 at this point. I've never encountered a more unprofessional, unorganized, unsafe festival in my entire life. Not only for the bands, but for the crew, for your staff at the festival on site, and especially for the fans." This guy actually looked shocked. He looked surprised. He was like, "Man, I don't get it. Like, we hired the production staff from Sick New World, big festival, to handle all this because they know what they're doing and they know how this stuff goes." And I was like, well, I have no reason not to believe that, but I just don't. Because these people had no fucking idea what they were doing. I don't know if that production team third party contracted it out to other people. I don't know what happened. I don't know why production didn't relay things to their stage managers, to the staff that was on the ground. I don't know. I wish I can get answers. Maybe after this video or something we get answers, but I don't know what it was. And he's like, dude, I took over this festival trying to change it, and we sunk millions and millions of dollars into this to make sure that it was running correctly. And I was like, dude, you can't just write a check at something and expect it to work. You have to have the right staff.
100% true. So now a lot of festivals actually outsource their production to production companies that specialize in running production for festivals. I won't name the names, but they know who they are. And these people are very good at what they do. Yes, mistakes do happen. Mistakes do happen in the festival industry. And, what can you do? Like, it's human error. But in this particular case, it's not human error. It's blatant disregard and negligence. And if you can't run a festival without double checking that things are getting done correctly, safely. I think it's just arrogance and ignorance saying, oh yeah, we paid these people, it's fine, they'll do it. And it's like, no, you're ultimately responsible. You're the promoter and take responsibility for how this is all going. Everyone has eyes. You can see when people are not having a good time. You can see when people don't have enough equipment, don't have enough logistics. It's shameful.
And they did not have the right staff. Everything about this festival was fucked from the get-go. It was absolutely horrible. And again, I just want to send my sympathies out to the actual festival staff that was there. They worked their asses off trying to help everybody, but they were given no information. They were given no help at all. At one point, I started thinking to myself, I'm like, God, these people are working so hard. They've been here since probably 5 a.m. They're probably not going to go back to a hotel, if they even have a hotel, until 3 a.m. I don't know how people are sleeping. I don't know how people are eating, surviving. Like, it's mind-blowing. So to the festival staff that was at Blue Ridge, excluding the production crew, thank you guys if you ever see this for working as hard as you did. Like, I don't know how you guys did it. And I just told this guy how bad it was. And at one funny point in the conversation, I will say this was kind of funny. Sorry, snooze. This has been going on for a while. I'll try and wrap this video up quick. At one point in the conversation, the festival promoter looked at me and said, "Are you the roadie that has the YouTube channel? Are you Tank the Tech?" I said, "Yes." I could see it in his face immediately. Like, he didn't even have to say anything. I saw it in his face, like, oh, fuck. Like, he was like, "Dude, I like your channel. I've seen it." But I know in that moment he realized, like,
there's going to be a video on this.
Say something. And originally I was not going to. Because like I said, it is very taboo sometimes for people in the industry to talk about things like this. But here's the thing. I don't work for Electric Callboy full time. I'm just tour managing this North American tour. And I feel as though people should be held accountable for this. And that's why I'm talking about this.
100%.
Again, this was the most unorganized, unprofessional, unsafe production I've ever been a part of in my entire life touring. I can't speak for any of the other bands because I don't know how it was on other stages. Like we were not on the main stage. I don't know how it was, for bands like Slipknot and Danzig that were there the same day. But I do have friends. I do have friends in a lot of camps that were on the other stages. I heard a lot of the same things from other people. I did thank the promoter. I was like, "Dude, thank you for having us. It's just, this doesn't work. This didn't work. This is a horrendous shit show. It is an absolute dumpster fire, and you guys should be embarrassed for putting this on." Those were my exact words. And I found out that this promoter is the promoter for some other festivals that are great festivals in the U.S., like metal and rock productions. So I don't understand how that happened. The only thing I can think of is that the production staff that was hired for this festival absolutely dropped the ball on everything.
It's really difficult, I think, because you're representing the band as well, don't forget, to stand up to a promoter and say to them face, "This, you effed up." Because for a mountain of reasons for obvious reasons actually, is, the band might not get booked again, the tour manager's an asshole or whatever, but yeah, I'm glad he said that to his face.
That's the only thing I can think of. Because again, the people that were working on the ground, the stage managers, the stagehands, the catering people backstage, the hospitality, the artist relations people, the vendors, they were trying their hardest. And I appreciate them. And they were thrown to the wolves. They had no support, no help, no nothing. So finally we get loaded out at, we had to take multiple trips with the flatbed and everything to our trailers, which were, again, 1.5 miles away. I had planned on getting us out of there by 10:30. We finished at 12:30 in the morning, which meant our drivers for our buses had been sitting for 3 hours, just doing nothing, which is horrible in this industry. You don't want your drivers there too early. They need to drive. They need their rest. Yeah, man, like there's no after show food, no hospitality. I mean, basically our band and crew went an entire day without fucking eating or drinking anything. And I'm not looking for sympathy from people because this happened to everybody there, not just us. It happened to all the bands, it happened to the fans, the staff.
Difference is that the fans can leave. As a band, you still have to perform. And you can't, as a band, you can't leave until your tech's done, until your tech's loaded out. So, like, there's a whole much more to that. As a fan, you have the freedom to leave. And you have the freedom to leave the festival if it's an option. In this case, from what I hear, it wasn't an option. But, yeah, it's crap.
That was there. It was just... I want to release this video and erase this day from my brain, dude. Like, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you saw I posted a picture that our tour photographer took of me smoking a cigarette. I don't smoke. Like, I was so stressed that day that you guys know how I'm sober and my sobriety means a lot to me. I was so stressed that day. I was so close to being like, fuck it. Like, I'm drinking tonight. I don't give a fuck. But that's the old me. I knew that's not an option. So instead, I had a fucking cigarette. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just that stereotype that, a cigarette will calm my nerves, but it was terrible and disgusting and I didn't like it. But it's just, dude, I feel like I'm reliving a nightmare right now just talking about this. I want to forget this and just erase it from my memory because it was horrendous. And the Electric Callboy crew themselves, they don't complain about anything, dude. They're the hardest working, nicest people I've ever met. Head down, get the job done at any cost. And I could see it in their faces how just defeated they were on this day. It's not the first American festival experience they were hoping for. I heard from them, they're like, dude, festivals like this in Europe would be shut down. Mm-hmm. This is unsafe, unsanitary, unprofessional, unorganized. And it was just bad all around. So the next day, when I saw that Blue Ridge Festival was canceled due to weather, I was like, no fucking way. I looked at the radar immediately, and there was no weather in that area at all. They canceled that festival because it was a shit show. I talked to some friends that were there on that Saturday, and I was told that a lot of the festival staff had walked off. I said, no, we're not doing this anymore. They left. The festival is blaming the weather for the cancellation for everything. Maybe that first day with the storms was what made everything go sideways. So you could maybe say weather was a reason, but it was not the reason. The reason this festival canceled is because it was an utter shit show from the day it started getting planned. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion from what I experienced. But I want to wrap this up because, to be honest, man, I'm a little burned out of talking about this. I don't even want to think about it anymore because it was the worst day of touring I've ever had in my entire life. Like I said, I feel as though I understand the bands are in a weird spot talking about this because they have future business with promoters and nobody wants to think that if they don't have a good time, they're going to talk about it. But people need to be held accountable in this business. I'm so fucking tired of things happening where nobody has any accountability. People just are like, whatever, rock and roll, just fuck that, dude. The fans were treated horribly. The crews were treated horribly. The staff, the bands. Nobody should have to experience this, ever. And if nothing else from this video, I just want people to be aware. And I want you to know, like, if I'm on tour, I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm going to talk about this stuff because people need to know about this. People need to know that weather didn't ruin this. Like, people need to know how bad this was, how unsafe this was. Mm-hmm. Festivals cannot operate like this. This should never happen again. So, with all that being said, I don't really have an appropriate way to wrap up this video like I normally do, so we're just going to end. If anybody at Blue Ridge, if anybody that worked at Blue Ridge or that was at Blue Ridge ever sees this, I just want you to know, again, I appreciate the festival staff that was on the grounds for everything they tried to do for us. They did try. They really did. The people that were on the ground, again, stage managers, stagehands, hospitality, artist relations, they fucking tried and they worked hard, and I appreciate that a ton. But they got screwed by production on this one. To all the fans that were there, I'm sorry you had to endure what you did. I saw the state of the grounds. I couldn't imagine camping there or waiting in line and doing that. You guys are the entire reason that bands do shows, that they love live music. You should never be treated like this and expected to endure things like this.
That's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Bryn, and you can catch me on all my socials. And don't forget to subscribe down below if you want to see more reactions. This one was particularly long just because this video in itself was 35 minutes. And then obviously my reactions, me stopping, and makes it a longer video. But if you happen to make it to the end, thank you very much for watching. And in conclusion to this, what I will add to it is the fact that, yes, this festival happened a few years ago now, 2 years ago as of recording of this video, but it is extremely important to learn these lessons as well. So, and to really ensure that moving forward in this industry, that we continue to strive to be better. Don't make these same mistakes where we're just blaming the weather for negligence and poor performance. And in the events industry, it is always about communication and making sure you pass on information to everyone who needs it. And at this festival, they obviously didn't do that. There was so many layers of so many breaks in the communication chain, so many things that weren't organized ahead of time, things that were inadequately provided, such as the flatbeds and the forklifts and the food. And, blaming things on weather is not really an excuse in my book, because you should always have a wet weather plan. You should always have plans for extreme weather. And because at the end of the day, we do all know when there's going to be extreme weather. We do have weather forecasts. We know when things are going to get bad a couple of days ahead, sometimes a week ahead. We know, okay, well, it's going to be a hurricane coming through. Maybe we should postpone it a day, which has happened before. And it all comes down to greed and negligence in my mind. But thank you very much, Take the Tech, for putting up this video. I know it was quite a negative video, but we don't learn from these experiences unless we talk about them and really highlight what went wrong. Anyways, that's it from me. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you on the next one.